The last thing a person does before closing their eyes at night can determine whether they will wake up the next morning. Buddhist philosophy has long recognized that the transition into sleep represents one of the most vulnerable moments in human existence. Ancient monks who devoted their lives to understanding the connection between body, mind, and spirit discovered something that modern medicine is only beginning to acknowledge. Certain bedtime practices create conditions that can stop the heart during sleep. A 47-year-old man went to bed one evening after following his usual routine. Nothing seemed different about that particular night. His family heard no disturbance, no cry for help, no sound of struggle. When morning came and he did not appear, they found him in his bed, appearing peaceful, as if still asleep. But he would never wake again. The medical examination revealed cardiac arrest had occurred during the night. What the family did not realize at the time was that specific actions taken before bed had created the perfect conditions for this tragedy. Buddhist teachings from centuries ago warned about the dangers of improper preparation for sleep. These ancient warnings were not mere superstition or folklore. They were observations accumulated over generations of monks who studied the delicate balance between waking consciousness and the sleep state. Modern cardiology research has now confirmed what these spiritual practitioners knew. The hours before sleep and the transition into unconsciousness create unique cardiovascular risks that can prove fatal when combined with certain behaviors. The heart does not simply rest during sleep. Instead, it enters a complex series of transitions affecting rhythm, blood pressure, and electrical conductivity. During these transitions, the heart becomes uniquely vulnerable to disruption. Certain actions taken in the hours before bed create conditions that interfere with these natural transitions, potentially triggering catastrophic cardiac events. 7 specific bedtime practices have been identified through both ancient Buddhist wisdom and modern medical research as creating dangerous conditions for the sleeping heart. What makes these practices so dangerous is their seeming innocence. These are not obviously harmful behaviors. They are common activities that millions of people engage in every night without realizing they are creating cardiovascular risk. The man who never woke up had followed routines that seemed perfectly normal, even healthy. Yet those routines created the conditions that stopped his heart while he slept. The purpose of sharing this knowledge is not to create fear, but to provide understanding that can save lives. Buddhist philosophy teaches that awareness transforms danger into protection. When people understand which bedtime practices threaten cardiovascular health, they gain the power to modify their routines and eliminate these risks. The transition into sleep can remain what it should be, a peaceful journey into rest and restoration rather than a potential passage toward cardiac catastrophe. Before exploring the specific dangerous practices that can stop the heart during sleep, take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This information could save your life or the life of someone you love. The knowledge being shared here combines ancient Buddhist wisdom with modern medical understanding to reveal truths that most people never learn until tragedy strikes. Make sure to comment below with the mantra, "I protect my heart through mindful evening practices." This affirmation creates conscious intention to implement the protective knowledge being shared. Buddhist philosophy has always recognized sleep as a sacred transition requiring proper preparation. The ancient texts describe sleep as a small death, where consciousness temporarily withdraws from the physical body. During this withdrawal, the body's autonomous systems must maintain all vital functions without conscious guidance. The heart must continue its steady rhythm. The lungs must continue their breath. The blood must continue its circulation. These processes operate automatically, but they depend on proper preparation and conditions. When evening routines create imbalance in the body's energy systems, they disrupt the autonomous functions that maintain life during sleep. Traditional Buddhist practitioners developed elaborate evening rituals not as religious observance but as practical preparation for the vulnerable sleep state. These rituals were designed to calm the nervous system, balance the body's energy, and create optimal conditions for the heart to maintain its rhythm throughout the night. Modern medicine now understands what these ancient practitioners observed through careful attention to cause and effect. The autonomic nervous system controls heart function during sleep. This system has two branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which activates the body and increases heart rate, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which relaxes the body and slows heart rate. During the transition into sleep, the body should naturally shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance, allowing the heart to enter its resting pattern. Certain bedtime practices prevent this natural transition. They keep the sympathetic nervous system activated when it should be withdrawing. They create cardiovascular stress when the heart should be entering its rest phase. They disrupt the electrical conductivity patterns that maintain steady cardiac rhythm. When these disruptions occur repeatedly night after night, they create cumulative stress on the heart. Eventually, during one of these vulnerable transition periods, the accumulated stress triggers a catastrophic event: sudden cardiac arrest during sleep. The medical term for this phenomenon is sleep-related sudden cardiac death. Research shows that cardiac arrests occurring during sleep have different characteristics from those occurring during waking hours. Sleep-related cardiac events often involve ventricular arrhythmias, abnormal heart rhythms originating in the heart's lower chambers. These arrhythmias can cause the heart to stop pumping blood effectively, leading to death within minutes unless immediately treated. The tragedy is that many of these events could be prevented through proper evening routines. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the body, mind, and spirit exist in constant communication. What affects one dimension affects all dimensions. Evening practices that seem to involve only the body or only the mind actually affect the entire integrated system. A practice that seems purely physical, like eating certain foods before bed, affects emotional state and spiritual energy. A practice that seems purely mental, like watching particular content before sleep, affects physical cardiovascular function. The 7 dangerous bedtime practices about to be revealed operate through multiple pathways. Some create direct physical stress on the cardiovascular system. Some trigger hormonal cascades that affect heart function. Some activate the sympathetic nervous system when it should be quieting. Some disrupt the body's natural circadian rhythms that govern cardiac patterns. Some create emotional or energetic disturbances that manifest as physical cardiac stress. Most involve combinations of these pathways, creating compound effects that prove especially dangerous. Understanding these practices requires recognizing that timing matters enormously. An activity that poses no cardiovascular risk during daytime hours can become dangerous when performed in the hours before sleep. The same meal that provides healthy nutrition at lunch can create cardiac risk when eaten as a late dinner. The same exercise that strengthens the heart in the morning can stress the heart dangerously when performed at night. Buddhist philosophy emphasizes living in harmony with natural rhythms, recognizing that what serves well-being at one time can harm well-being at another time. The first dangerous bedtime practice involves consuming heavy meals within 3 hours of sleep. Buddhist monks traditionally stopped eating after noon, and this practice had profound effects on sleep quality and cardiovascular health. Modern research has confirmed that eating heavy meals close to bedtime creates multiple cardiovascular risks. Digestion requires significant blood flow to the stomach and intestines, diverting blood away from other organs, including the heart. This altered blood distribution changes how the heart functions during the critical transition into sleep. Heavy late-night meals also cause blood sugar spikes, followed by dramatic drops during sleep. These blood sugar fluctuations trigger hormonal responses that affect heart rhythm and blood pressure. The insulin released to process the meal causes the body to store energy rather than enter the fasting state that should occur during sleep. This metabolic confusion creates cardiovascular stress throughout the night. Additionally, Lying down shortly after eating causes stomach acid to move toward the esophagus, potentially triggering gastroesophageal reflux. This reflux can stimulate the vagus nerve, which directly affects heart rhythm and can trigger dangerous arrhythmias. The man who died in his sleep had eaten a large dinner at 9 o'clock at night, then gone to bed by 10:30. His stomach was still actively digesting food when he entered sleep. The cardiovascular stress of digestion combined with the cardiac vulnerability of the sleep transition created conditions for fatal arrhythmia. Buddhist dietary wisdom teaches that the evening meal should be light, easily digestible, and consumed at least 3 hours before lying down. Foods to avoid in evening hours include red meat, heavy starches, fried foods, rich desserts, and anything requiring extended digestion time. The positive approach to evening nutrition involves consuming a light meal between 5 and 6 o'clock for those sleeping around 10 or 11. This meal should emphasize easily digestible foods, vegetables, simple grains, light proteins like fish or legumes. The 3-hour gap before sleep allows digestion to largely complete, enabling the body to enter sleep in a fasting state. This fasting state triggers beneficial hormonal patterns that protect cardiovascular health. Growth hormone increases, promoting cellular repair. Inflammation markers decrease, reducing stress on blood vessels. The parasympathetic nervous system can fully activate, allowing the heart to enter its true resting pattern. However, the danger is not merely about timing and food choices. The act of eating itself affects consciousness and energy in ways that Buddhist philosophy considers significant. Eating close to bedtime keeps the mind and body activated when they should be quieting. The digestive process generates heat and energy that counteract the cooling and calming that should occur before sleep. This energetic activation maintains sympathetic nervous system dominance when parasympathetic dominance should be establishing itself. The result is a body attempting to sleep while still physiologically prepared for activity, creating internal conflict that stresses the heart. The integration practice for this first danger involves establishing an evening eating cutoff time and honoring it consistently. Choose the time based on typical bedtime, 3 hours before lying down. Communicate this boundary to family members so they understand and support the practice. On occasions when late eating cannot be avoided, choose the lightest possible foods and consider sleeping in a slightly elevated position to reduce reflux risk. Gradually train the body to expect no food after the cutoff time, and the evening hours will become naturally calmer as the digestive system learns this new rhythm. But wait until learning about the second dangerous bedtime practice, because this one involves something that millions of people do every single night, believing they are simply unwinding and relaxing, never realizing they are creating the exact conditions that can stop the heart during sleep. The second dangerous bedtime practice involves consuming alcohol in the hours before sleep. Many people believe that alcohol helps them sleep, and indeed, alcohol does induce drowsiness and can speed the transition into unconsciousness. Buddhist teachings warn against intoxication not merely for moral or spiritual reasons, but because of the profound effects that altered consciousness has on the body's vital functions. Modern cardiology research has revealed that alcohol consumption before bed creates multiple pathways toward cardiac arrest during sleep. Alcohol is a cardiac depressant that affects heart rhythm in complex ways. Initially, alcohol causes blood vessels to dilate and blood pressure to drop. The heart must work harder to maintain blood flow throughout the body. During waking hours, the body can compensate for these cardiovascular changes. During sleep, when the heart is supposed to be resting and slowing its rhythm, alcohol prevents this natural slowing. The heart remains activated, working harder than it should during what should be its recovery period. Alcohol also disrupts the normal sleep architecture, preventing the body from entering the deepest, most restorative sleep stages. Instead of cycling smoothly through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, alcohol-affected sleep becomes fragmented and unstable. During these disrupted sleep patterns, heart rate and blood pressure fluctuate abnormally. These fluctuations create opportunities for dangerous arrhythmias to develop. Research shows that atrial fibrillation, a common arrhythmia that can lead to stroke or sudden cardiac death, frequently occurs during sleep in people who consumed alcohol before bed. The phenomenon known as holiday heart syndrome demonstrates alcohol's cardiac dangers. This condition, first identified in emergency rooms during holiday periods when alcohol consumption increases, involves sudden cardiac arrhythmias occurring during or shortly after drinking. Many cases occur during sleep hours after evening alcohol consumption. The person feels fine when going to bed, but hours later, during deep sleep, the heart suddenly develops a dangerous rhythm. In some cases, the arrhythmia resolves on its own. In other cases, it progresses to cardiac arrest. Buddhist wisdom teaches that alcohol obscures clear perception and disrupts the body's natural intelligence. This disruption proves especially dangerous during the vulnerable sleep transition. The body's autonomous systems rely on clear signals to maintain proper function. Alcohol clouds these signals, creating confusion in the regulatory systems controlling heart rate, blood pressure, and rhythm. The man who died in his sleep had consumed 3 glasses of wine between 8 and 10 o'clock that evening. He felt relaxed and sleepy, which he interpreted as beneficial preparation for rest. Instead, he was creating cardiovascular chaos that his heart could not survive. The positive characteristics of proper evening beverage choices involve supporting rather than disrupting cardiovascular function. Water, herbal teas that promote relaxation, and warm milk with calming spices like nutmeg or cardamom all prepare the body properly for sleep. These beverages hydrate without stressing the heart, warm without intoxicating, and calm without depressing vital functions. Buddhist practitioners often drink warm water with a small amount of honey in the evening, believing this combination calms the spirit while maintaining the body's energetic balance. The shadow side of alcohol before bed extends beyond direct cardiac effects. Alcohol disrupts blood sugar regulation, causing dangerous drops in glucose levels during sleep. These hypoglycemic episodes stress the cardiovascular system as the body releases emergency hormones trying to raise blood sugar. Alcohol interferes with breathing during sleep, increasing the risk of sleep apnea, which itself creates significant cardiac risk. Alcohol dehydrates the body, making blood thicker and harder for the heart to pump. The combined effect of these multiple stressors creates compounded cardiovascular risk. The integration practice requires complete elimination of alcohol in the 3 hours before bed. Those who regularly consume evening alcohol may need to gradually adjust this habit, as sudden cessation can create its own stress. Begin by moving the final drink earlier in the evening, creating a 1-hour gap, then 2 hours, then 3. Replace evening alcohol with calming herbal teas or other soothing non-alcoholic beverages. Notice how sleep quality improves and morning energy increases when alcohol no longer disrupts the night's rest. The heart receives the true restoration it requires rather than struggling through alcohol-induced stress. However, the challenge lies in social and emotional habits around evening drinking. Many people associate evening alcohol with relaxation, reward, or social connection. Breaking this association requires conscious intention and alternative practices for achieving the desired states. Buddhist mindfulness techniques offer powerful alternatives for evening relaxation that support rather than endanger cardiovascular health. 5 minutes of conscious breathing creates deeper relaxation than alcohol ever could without any of the cardiac risks. The transition to the third dangerous bedtime practice reveals something even more prevalent than late eating or evening drinking: This next practice involves technology that has become almost universal in modern bedrooms. Yet Buddhist wisdom and modern cardiology research agree. This technology creates cardiac stress that can prove fatal during sleep. The third dangerous bedtime practice involves using electronic devices, particularly phones and tablets, in the hour before sleep. Buddhist teaching emphasizes that the preparation for sleep should involve calming the mind and withdrawing from external stimulation. Modern screen technology does the opposite, creating intense mental and physiological activation right when the body should be quieting. The blue light emitted by electronic screens suppresses melatonin production, disrupting the natural sleep-wake cycle. This disruption affects cardiovascular function in multiple ways that create cardiac arrest risk. Melatonin serves more than sleep regulation. This hormone also protects cardiovascular health by reducing inflammation, lowering blood pressure, and stabilizing heart rhythm. When blue light suppresses melatonin production in the evening hours, it removes these protective effects. The heart loses the biochemical signals that should be preparing it for the restful sleep state. Instead, the body remains in a state of alertness that maintains sympathetic nervous system activation. The heart cannot fully transition into its resting pattern when the brain continues receiving signals that it is still daytime. The content consumed through screens creates additional cardiac stress. Social media, news, work emails, and dramatic entertainment all activate emotional and mental responses that translate into physiological changes. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline increase, heart rate accelerates, blood pressure rises. These are appropriate responses during daytime activity, but prove dangerous when occurring just before sleep. The body attempts to enter sleep while still flooded with activation hormones, creating internal contradiction that stresses cardiovascular function. Research on sudden cardiac death during sleep has identified a concerning pattern. Many victims used electronic devices extensively in the hour before bed. The electromagnetic radiation emitted by these devices may also play a role, though this mechanism remains under investigation. What is certain is that screen use before bed creates measurable cardiac stress markers, elevated heart rate, increased heart rate variability indicating sympathetic activation, elevated blood pressure, and disrupted circadian rhythm all appear in people who use screens before sleep. The man who died in his sleep had spent 45 minutes scrolling through his phone in bed before turning off the light. He was checking work emails, reading news articles, and browsing social media. Each activity triggered mental and emotional responses that activated his cardiovascular system. When he finally put down the phone and attempted to sleep, his body was physiologically prepared for action, not rest. His heart rate was elevated, his blood pressure was raised, his stress hormones were circulating. These were the conditions present when his heart entered the vulnerable sleep transition and subsequently arrested. The positive characteristics of proper evening screen practices involve using the evening hours for genuine connection, reflection, and gradual quieting of consciousness. Buddhist monasteries have no electronic devices disturbing the evening transition into rest. Modern people can create similar conditions by establishing clear boundaries with technology. Designating the hour before bed as screen-free time allows the body's natural wisdom to prepare properly for sleep. This hour can be devoted to gentle activities that support cardiovascular health, light stretching, calm conversation with loved ones, reading physical books by warm light, or meditation practice. The shadow side of evening screen use extends to its addictive quality. The dopamine hits from notifications, likes, and new information create compulsive checking behavior that people struggle to control. This addiction hijacks the evening routine, replacing practices that would support health with practices that endanger it. Many people realize they should put down their phones but find themselves unable to stop scrolling. Buddhist teaching on attachment and craving provides insight into this struggle. The mind seeks stimulation and distraction, never satisfied, always wanting more. This mental pattern proves especially dangerous when it prevents proper preparation for sleep. The integration practice requires creating physical and temporal boundaries with devices. Remove phones and tablets from the bedroom entirely, charging them in another room overnight. If the phone serves as an alarm clock, replace it with a simple alarm. Establish a device shutdown time 1 hour before bed and mark this transition with a brief ritual, placing the phone in its charging location, taking 3 conscious breaths, and stating an intention for restful sleep. During the screen-free hour, engage in activities from the pre-digital era: reading, writing by hand, conversation, gentle movement, or contemplation. Notice how the body naturally calms when screens are absent, creating optimal conditions for restorative sleep and cardiovascular protection. However, the challenge with this practice lies in its countercultural nature. Modern life has normalized constant device connectivity, making screen-free time feel uncomfortable or even anxiety-producing. Buddhist practice teaches that this discomfort is temporary and reveals important truths about dependence and attachment. Pushing through the initial discomfort of evening screen absence opens the door to profound improvements in sleep quality and cardiovascular health. Stay tuned because the fourth dangerous bedtime practice involves something that many people consider healthy and beneficial, never suspecting it could create conditions for cardiac arrest during sleep. This next revelation might be the most surprising of all. The fourth dangerous bedtime practice involves vigorous exercise in the 3 hours before sleep. Buddhist philosophy teaches balance in all things, recognizing that practices beneficial at one time can prove harmful at another. Physical exercise strengthens the heart and improves cardiovascular health when performed during appropriate hours. When performed shortly before sleep, the same exercise creates cardiovascular stress that can trigger fatal cardiac events during the night. Vigorous exercise activates the sympathetic nervous system powerfully, flooding the body with adrenaline and other stress hormones. Heart rate increases dramatically, blood pressure rises, and the entire cardiovascular system enters a state of maximum activation. During daytime hours, this activation, followed by post-exercise recovery, provides beneficial training stress that strengthens the heart. During evening hours, this activation occurs when the body should be transitioning toward rest, creating conflict between exercise-induced activation and sleep-required quieting. The body requires several hours to fully recover from vigorous exercise. Heart rate must return to baseline. Stress hormones must clear from circulation. Body temperature, which rises significantly during exercise, must drop to the lower levels needed for sleep. Nervous system activation must shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. When people exercise vigorously, then attempt to sleep within 3 hours, none of these transitions has completed. The body tries to sleep while still physiologically prepared for activity. This incomplete transition creates multiple cardiac risks. Elevated adrenaline levels during sleep increase the possibility of dangerous arrhythmias. The heart rhythm becomes less stable, more susceptible to electrical disruption.